Testing. Welcome everybody to Haven of Horror. This is episode 17. We are discussing, I think this takes the crown now as most recent horror films that we've done on the channel. Ready or Not from 2 years ago. I can't believe it's been 2 years already. And The Hunt, which came out last year and threw everybody into a fit.
Not everybody. Apparently 50% of people liked it.
No, I mean we'll get into it, but there was like a
Yeah.
big controversy with that film. I would say, I guess just do it in release order. So we'll start with Ready or Not. I guess because there's no real announcements this week other than this is the first day of our new schedule. It's going to work out best for everybody. I know Milton's happy about it. He doesn't have to be up until like 1 o'clock in the morning anymore.
It does help a little bit, I'll admit. But if we had continued with Wednesday, I would have anyway.
Yeah. It was more practical to do it on Saturday. So we hope to see you all there. Here. To anybody who's listening to this on Spotify or Anchor or any of the other platforms we are doing amazingly there. We're almost at 100 listens overall. So thank you guys for that. And we hit 20 subs on YouTube. Now we just got to get the Twitch channel up there. The Resident Evil Village playthrough is coming eventually. I just got to get Milton to like stop having a life. And we are of course working hard at the Buffy review. And then I'm not going to make any promises, but I noticed that American Horror Story was on Prime, so it'd probably be after Buffy. But I'd like to maybe do a video on season 1 and see how it goes from there because I've never seen any of that show.
I've seen all of season 1 and a little bit of season 2.
Okay, I've seen half of season 1, but I was a teenager and I was like, "This is dumb. There's no like mass killers and it's a ghost story." But yeah, those are the big announcements. Buffy season 3 is coming, and probably after we finish Buffy, we might try some American Horror Story if it's still on Prime. If there's enough to talk about there. Why don't you start by telling us about Ready or Not, and then we will go from there.
Ready or Not.
About an hour.
Crazy. Essentially, it's the story of a young bride recently married who enters into this rather eccentric family that has become rather wealthy based on their board game IPs, as well as a mysterious past related to a particular family member who possibly and actually definitely made a pact with the devil or some sort of outside force that basically made the family really wealthy. And now the family basically has to commit to sacrificing people who seek to enter the family through marriage. Enter in our protagonist, played by
Samara Weaving.
Yeah, Samara Weaving, who gets exposed to all this craziness and has to deal with it as best as she can.
Samara, just side note real quick, Samara Weaving's fucking awesome.
Oh yeah, definitely.
I love her in everything I've seen her in. Milton, do you know who she's related to?
Hugo Weaving?
Yes, she is his niece.
Elrond. Yes.
But yeah, so this is my third or fourth time watching it. This movie. I probably would never have seen this except for I'd heard some good reviews and I had some downtime during quarantine, like everyone else did. So I went through a bunch of horror movies with her in it. She's been in quite a few. She's also in Ash vs. Evil Dead, which we will cover at some point in the future. This is one of her best. And this she is I think cemented herself as a scream queen at this point.
That would be fair to say, yeah.
At some point we'll have to do the babysitter films, which are also pretty good. What?
But yeah, I'd say this is a very fun movie. It's a movie that doesn't pretend to be anything more than its premise. Tries to develop enough of it. It gives us a bit of comedy, well, dark comedy as well, along with the action. there is an outside force that we can take seriously. A lot of these other antagonists that we understand are dangerous, but we can also recognize are very human. Um, our protagonist is not annoying, thankfully. It's easy for a lot of these protagonists um, to develop like rather poorly and get rather annoying in this kind of setting, but it actually pulls it off pretty well. Um, yeah.
Yeah, and the other thing to note, and the other reason I watched this, the directors of this film, 'cause I believe it had two. They're like a team or some shit. Um,
Yes.
but
That would be Matt Bettinelli, Olpin, and Tyler Gillett.
they are doing Scream 5.
Hmm?
And after seeing this film, I'm really excited for Scream 5. I can't remember. Were you with us when we watched Scream?
Yes, I was.
Okay, okay.
Yeah.
I'm really. Oh man.
Sorry, dude.
Nah, you're good. Or it's all good. Like I said, I was scarfing down some food before, and it just apparently went down the wrong pipe. But anyway, I'm excited to get to those. But we got to cover some like classic slashers before we get to Scream because it's a whole thing. But anyway, I'm getting us off topic. So yeah, this feels very old school to me, right? Where you have this character, we know just enough about them to get the story rolling, and then it just keeps going for the entire 90 minute runtime. Uh, I think this movie's a breath of fresh air amongst the like super serious because you got those like The Conjuring and shit like that. That's like calculated jump scare serious, and then you get something like Ready or Not, which is just a fun time, but it's still a horror movie because you're still scared for the protagonist. Because at least for me personally, I really like her and I want to see her survive. But the directors and writers know that we have to see that she is vulnerable, and they put her through insane levels of shit in this movie. So what was your overall? I mean, you gave it a little bit, but how did you feel mostly about Ready or Not, other than just it was fun?
Well, at the beginning, I wasn't exactly sure because I could see the premise of this. It reminded me of another film that I had seen like a year prior. I forget what it was called, but it's just based on how it was filmed, I wasn't exactly sure how I would feel about it. And then once we got to the action, yeah, I was definitely into it. It kept a very, very consistent and fast pace, which definitely helped the movie quite a bit. Um, it wasn't character heavy, but we got enough of it to the point where I could say, "Oh yeah, you know what? I like this main character, and I have a lot of reasons to not like the villains." Which definitely helps out the action because a lot of these horror action flicks can sometimes just mix up elements and sometimes make the villain sometimes more sympathetic than the hero sometimes. But it's good that the fundamentals are definitely being observed. Um, gory, bloody action, you gotta love it. Uh, and it
I
doesn't
also
try to be pretentious.
I also appreciate they got the license to like one song, and that should annoy me because they use it multiple times, but it's always used perfectly.
Yeah, yeah. The soundtrack is minimal, which I think helps quite a bit of the tension. Because if this was a lot more soundtrack heavy, I think this probably would not have been as good of a movie as it is.
But to go back to your earlier point as well as we could have made like the villains too sympathetic or too unsympathetic. I think we have a nice blend, right?
Yeah.
Because the parents are assholes, and I hate them. The aunt is a crazy person who I like, but also like not like. I just think she's really funny.
She's just
Um,
dedicated to the principle, and it's like, yeah, you take her seriously as a villain because she's just that crazy, and the actress does a great job. Who plays her? Because I feel like I've seen a lot of these actors before in other stuff. Um, Forget what her name is. No. There's Andy McDowell though. I recognize. I recognize her. Christian Brun. There's like a lot. There's like you can. I'm never exactly sure where I've seen them from, but I've seen their faces before.
yeah, for sure. Uh, but while you're doing that, but then on the flip side, you have like the two main brothers who I think come off as very sympathetic. Um, the one not so much towards the end, but I think it's interesting how they handle that. But my favorite family member has to be, I think his name is Daniel. I'm terrible with names, even though I literally
Yep, it's
not
Daniel.
like 15 minutes ago finished the show. Daniel. Daniel's my favorite because he's like the cynic and like he goes back and forth between believing in this and thinking they should all die anyway because they're terrible people, and not believing in it and thinking they're terrible people.
I think the end is played, I think, by Nikki with Dan. I can't pronounce her last name, unfortunately. Um, yeah, she does a great job. Adam Brody plays Daniel, as you were mentioning before. He's great. Has not. That's where I recognize him from. Shazam.
Really, he's in Shazam.
Yeah, yeah. He's also in
Who's
Thank You for Smoking as well.
who's he playing Shazam?
I don't know. He's just looking through. Well, he's not on the wiki,
Oh, weird.
but he was cast in it.
Oh,
So,
if anybody
I'll
knows,
look it
let
up.
us know in the comments below or send us a message on Twitter. I'm curious. I like Shazam quite a bit, but it is not horror, so we will not be covering it in this channel.
No.
Coming soon, Haven of Superheroes with me and Milton. No, kidding. This is a full time project, at least for me, and for Milton for as well. But
At least
no
for now.
offense, Milton. I do at least a little bit more.
Yeah. For now.
But
For now. Oh,
for now that
no,
I
sorry.
do more, or for now that it's part full time, are you trying to announce your department or departure?
No. Like to say, I like to contribute more. That's all.
Yeah, no, for
Okay.
sure.
So Adam Brody played superhero Freddy.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so and then the sister is also really funny, and I feel bad for her in a way because she's trying, man. She's really trying.
As a character, she's still despicable. Granted,
Yeah,
most of them are, but the only one I can really respect is Daniel because at least he tries not to play the game.
he
The others,
tries in a way that like he's trying to be a good person.
yeah,
She's trying in the way that I feel bad because it's the meme, right? Like the oh you tried. Um, I also like that actress that plays her. She's on one of those sci-fi original shows, Winona Earp. It's not like high art or anything, but it's a good like turn your brain off for an hour show. It's exactly what you think it is too, a female version of Wyatt Earp in modern day with fantasy trappings. But anyway, so basically, yeah, the in-laws are all trying to kill Samara Weaving, and she has to basically outsmart them until dawn because if they don't sacrifice her by dawn, apparently they will all die. And I like that the movie doesn't necessarily paint them as the movie is ambiguous about it until the end, right? Because she throughout the entire movie, you're not sure if they're telling the truth or is this just a family legend that they believe and they're all crazy people.
and they're not even fully sure, which I think adds a good element to it.
Yeah.
Which, in a way, makes a twist out of a not twist. In a way, I think, but in a good way.
Oh, the final like five
Yeah.
10 minutes is brilliant.
Yeah.
Because
Spoilers.
yeah,
They
spoilers.
explode.
Uh, it hits dawn, and then they all think, well, nothing's happening. Maybe we've been wrong, right? And you're like, oh, is that going to be the like black comedy twist that they were misled this entire time and they did all this for nothing? And then the old woman explodes,
Yeah.
and it's amazing. But my favorite
And
part of that
yeah,
is when the record that's half melted starts playing that stupid "Run Run Run" song. I don't know what it's actually called. I say it's stupid, but it's also really catchy, and it's like, kind of like stuck in my head now.
I'm gonna look it up actually what this song is. But yeah, go
Uh,
ahead. Keep going.
and then they explode one by one, and this movie's not afraid of anything with its premise, right? Yeah, it doesn't show the kids explode, but it's obvious that's what happens. It's one of my favorite like gags at the end, right? Because she takes her kids and runs, and then the minute she's out the door, you just hear three explosions and blood goes everywhere. It's amazing.
Right. But yeah, the track I think is from Headquarters Music. It's called the hide. It's literally called the hide and seek song.
Mm, that makes sense.
Yeah, but they have other things here. They have Unchained Melody by the Righteous Brothers, Love Me Tender by Chuck Jackson, Ludwig
Oh,
van
weird.
Beethoven's Symphony Number 9. Obviously, that definitely shows up quite a bit.
I don't
Sonata Number
remember
7
hearing
by
any of
Mikhail
those.
Gordev. There's a few other songs here, but it's far from each other, just so that tension can be built up in the silence, because sound is definitely a big element in some of the scenes present, because it's a hide and seek movie of sorts, a game of cat and mouse between the protagonist and you know the crazy rich family.
Yeah. And kudos for this movie as well as the protagonist. The protagonist isn't just smart because everyone else is stupid. She's legitimately clever at times. Like she improvises and adapts to whatever her situation is. And it does that thing right that so many movies nowadays have trouble with. It strikes a balance. She is smart. She's capable. She is not perfect. She gets the shit beat out of her in this movie.
Yeah.
I I don't know if I was supposed to, but I laugh when she gets her hand shot because her reaction is perfect.
Well, for me, I felt like a little sad because, oh yeah, the kids are just as damned as their parents.
Yep.
But other than that, yeah, it was definitely a reaction scene, just to see, oh yeah, the tensions are being raised. She's not safe from anyone now.
Yeah. Well, and part of it is also like her scream is awesome. I don't know how she does that scream. That's gotta be hell on vocal cords.
You call her a scream queen. That's one of the scenes that really supports that notion.
Yeah. I'll have to show you some more of the movies that she's in. The babysitter, she makes that movie awesome.
Oh, well,
Uh
watch Moonhaven Horror. We have a
um
long list, folks, but we'll
we
get
do.
to we'll get to them. We'll get to them.
We do. Um yeah, I mean this is I think in a way both of these movies this week are very simple films as well. We've had kind of a string of those, minus last week. Last week was much more like complex
It was a
things to
very
talk about.
cerebral pairing.
I think The Hunt will have a little more to talk about, although some of that I don't know if I want to talk about on the internet. But yeah, I mean, the main thing with Ready or Not is this is a get a group of friends together, watch this movie. You're gonna have some laughs. You're gonna have some gross out moments. People getting splurted with blood. People getting their hands blown open, heads blown off. Um, any
With the
real
part that
standout scenes for you, or anything that really made you go like, "Oh, I like this movie a lot."
standouts, definitely the end. I think it was great with the characters finally just the final moment where everything culminates and you get to see these evil people get their comeuppance is definitely a standout thing. Um, the scenes with the butler. The butler is perhaps the most intimidating character of the bunch because he's just the most dedicated out of all of them. The scene with the husband's betrayal is certainly a bit gut wrenching just to see what goes behind the scenes to eventually just push him to that point. He just gives up and he just lets the corruption take place.
And
Um,
there's a little bit of just to bandwagon off your point real quick, and then I'll let you get back to it. There's a little bit of paralleling with him and his brother, right? Like because he's the one that struggles to get out. He gets out, and then he comes back, and he's still against it, but you can kind of see that maybe he's not as against it as he likes to believe. Whereas Daniel is stuck, but he is against it. He's miserable. He's stuck in a loveless marriage, etc. So there's kind of like a parallel between them, but sadly they both end up in the same place.
they do and they don't. It's not Daniel who suffers the consequences at the end. except of course for death. But he
Well,
at
that's what I meant
least,
by same place.
oh, sure. Well, if there is an afterlife in this universe, because apparently there are demons or supernatural elements, maybe there is some redemption for Daniel. Who knows? But they are all dead, certainly. As far as the protagonist is concerned, they can all go to hell. So,
Well,
well,
and I
maybe
mean,
someday.
this isn't a movie that I want to discuss like the theology of because they don't care. Like the demon is just there
No,
as a
no, he
conceit for
is
the
just
film.
there. Yeah, he is just there. I didn't mean to put theology in it, but
No, no,
we
you're fine.
the
I
film like the
expect that
film
from you.
like the film likes to at least give some fact of Samara like recognizes that Daniel has tried to make things right. Um, which it definitely puts definitely a very strong like exposing light upon her husband because he just fails at the end.
Yeah,
He has every like means of escape by that point, but decides, well, if I'm not going to get anything out of it at the end, then what's the point?
yeah. And I think you could tell kind of at the end, he knows he's made a mistake. But I can't. But it could. It's one of two things, right? It's him at the end knowing he's gonna die, and it's just like panicking, and he's like, "Well, you're the one thing I did right. I'm sorry." Or he legitimately feels bad for betraying her in that moment. What was your read on that?
I think he does, but at the end, in the end he is a selfishly motivated character, and that does take hold, and that is eventually his critical flaw because he acknowledges that he's not going to get the girl at the end, which was this main motivating factor for doing everything that he was doing. So then, if he can't have her, he's going to sacrifice her, and that shows the critical flaw in his character that makes him a villain in the end.
Well, and I think the movie kind of. So I didn't notice that until this time, probably because this time I was watching it as like, you know, oh, I could talk about this and I could, think about this. I think the movie is kind of setting it up the whole time because not only do you have the scene, of course, with his mother, who's like, I know you better than you think I do, but when you think about it, if he didn't agree with his family's like tradition and their rules, he would have just eloped with this woman somewhere, right?
And he wouldn't have experienced any of the consequences. He could have been just out of the family's curse.
Well, okay,
Well,
I
maybe.
don't agree with that part. There's nothing to say that he still wouldn't have died a horrible death at the end for him, but he wouldn't have put his fiance slash wife through all that she went through that night.
Sure. Well, I mean, granted. Well, okay. So let's say they eloped, and let's say they never had any involvement with the family at their wedding, and they just completely escaped. Hmm, I don't know. I don't think the movie wants us to think about that too much. It is definitely something to consider, though, with how
And I
suicide
don't
quickly
think the
goes.
movie does either because the movie is built around its gags, right? Which is fine. I love films like that. But I think it is also kind of saying something about the character that he purposefully takes her back home to get married, and when he knows that this will happen, because even if because no matter what, if he had eloped or something, he would have died because the curse isn't. You don't have to be in the family. He's still blood related to them, and the way they talk about the curse is it's through the lineage, which even if he escaped would still affect him. But he would rather put her through all of that than risk the chance of dying but keeping her safe. I
It
think it's
definitely,
a consistent byline throughout this movie.
yeah, it definitely shows his selfish nature. Granted, an understandably selfish nature with that particular thing, but at the
See,
same
but I
time,
don't.
it does accumulate.
But at the beginning, I don't think it's as understandable because he doesn't believe in the curse.
Uh, he does and he doesn't because he was. It was illustrated in the beginning of the scene, at the beginning of the movie, that he was willing to, sacrifice someone else. and just go along with it. There's always like in every game, because this movie is very obsessed with the idea of games, there's always an element of choice that's present. And eventually your outcome is dependent upon the choices you make throughout your the life inside of the game. He could have decided even as a child to do the right thing, but he decided not to.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's not a lot to go in depth about. I think we already went more in depth than we really than I really wanted to about a movie like this, because this is like there's some good, interesting things here, but I mean, this is an escapism movie, right? Like you
It's a
gotta have
simple
fun.
movie.
Yeah.
It's a simple movie with simple concepts, simple themes. But hey, 30 minutes, not too bad, I'd say.
So, final thoughts and rating slash would you watch this?
Let's see. I'll give this movie. I'll give it a 4. And yeah, I would watch this again. I would like to watch it with other people. Um, but yeah, I could. Yeah, I would watch this again and would enjoy it. I think it's a good movie to put on with other people to watch, like a popcorn flick. Maybe get into some maybe a bigger discussion if you have like more people who are interested in discussing it after they see it. But you don't need to examine this deeply to enjoy it. And maybe if you do examine it deeply, you might find more stuff to enjoy about it. But it is, as you said, a simple movie, and that's not a bad thing.
That's not a bad thing at all. That's don't get me wrong. I like my complex cerebral like The Witch, but I don't know. Part of me likes just Ready or Not or Jason X or something.
Yeah, you need
Um,
variety in your film diet of sorts.
exactly.
Yeah.
I'm gonna give this a 4 out of 5 as well. I toyed with a 4.5, but I just don't feel it that high. I will absolutely watch this again. This is like my third or fourth viewing. Um, I love Samara Weaving. I will watch anything with her in it. Even that stupid Snake Eyes movie that's coming out this year or next year. Um,
Another game movie
another
of
what?
sorts, like another movie about games. Because apparently it's
No,
called Snake Eyes.
the GI Joe Snake Eyes.
Oh yeah, you're. I completely went over my. I have not seen any of those GI Joe live action films.
The
I
first
guess
one's
why
all
would I
right.
watch them?
First one's all right. It's
Okay.
kind of a mindless action movie, but it's all right. Um, it's got the Ninth Doctor in it, whatever his name is,
Uh,
Christopher Eccleston. That's it.
yeah.
But anyway, yeah, this is a really fun movie. Great party movie. Get a group of friends together, turn it on, cheer when people go boom, etc. So, moving on to one of the most controversial movies of 2020. I don't know if that's actually true, but it was controversial. I don't know if you got
Yeah.
knew this, but it did get delayed because of criticisms against the premise. Um,
Yes. I saw the poster for it. It definitely tries to market off the fact that it was delayed. Certainly.
yeah,
If anyone has seen the poster, you see it on the wiki right there.
and I think people were stupid because there's nothing that worth getting upset over in this film. But we're reviewing 2020's The Hunt from Blumhouse. And Austin's not here to give me a hard time about enjoying films. So The Hunt is. I'm just gonna summarize this. I can't speak English today. In one sentence, basically a bunch of rich people hunt a bunch of poor people, and they nabbed the wrong. The main character got nabbed by accident, and she's a badass. So, because I'm dying to know, Melton, what did you think of The Hunt?
Um, there's definitely a there's definitely like a similar through line of like rich people kind of lording themselves over, people they consider to be below them. Both in this movie and in Ready or Not. So I was already thinking so I was already thinking of that because I watched Ready or Not first and then watched The Hunt. I saw the similar theme and I thought, oh, this is probably going to be something similar to Ready or Not, but it's going to be worse. Because like through like the first portion of this movie, we don't even get to the protagonist until like over 20 minutes in. And by that point, we've had a lot of this the film language tells us, okay, this is the main character. Oh no, this is the main character, and this is the main character. And it's like by that point, it's like, are we going to just switch from perspective to perspective, just watch people die? Because then it's weird, and then we finally get to her, and then oh, now the movie's a bit more consistent. Now I think I understand what's going on. So it's a weird, in some ways I think poorly paced start, but then it gets better throughout. I would say it's a it's a it's a fine movie. It's a simple movie. It has a lot of political overtones to it, which
And
I
we'll
would
get into
imagine
some of that
probably
because there's
yeah.
some of that is good, some of that is not so good.
Yeah.
So this is my second viewing. And I remember the first time I watched this act because I knew Emma Roberts was in it. If you don't know who Emma Roberts is, she is the blonde at the beginning that gets shot like right away.
Yes. I
And
recognize her from quite a few stuff, like also in the Nancy Drew movie from like back
oh
in the day.
well, and this so to tie it back into the way we started the show, she is most famous now for being an American Horror Story, which is what made me curious to look up the show. But anyway, and she's also in Scream 4, and she's amazing in Scream 4. So I figured, well, she's a well-known like horror kind of actress. She's gonna be the main character, right? Nope. And then it was like, and then this is the part that made me laugh the most. That like hunter guy that rescues her at the beginning. You know who that is, don't you?
Oh shoot. I I've seen him in stuff as well.
He is Green
What?
Arrow in Smallville.
Oh, no wonder I don't know. I haven't seen any of that
Oh,
CW
okay.
stuff.
He. Let me just tell you, there's a lot that show gets wrong. It's Green Arrow is fantastic. Uh, but anyway, and so I like that actor a lot. So I was like, oh, he's going to be the main character. Nope. So I actually think the first 20 minutes, like, it's some of the best stuff in that movie for me personally, because I like how it's kind of keeping you guessing, but it also is kind of upfront. Like, it shows the main character. It just doesn't draw attention to the fact that it's the main character. Uh,
Yes.
so I thought that was kind of fun, especially because it's not a dissatisfying like subverting expectations. It's oh this is gonna be the main character. Nope. It reminded me a little bit of the Scream 4 opening, which I like a lot, which is funny because Emma Roberts. But anyway, yeah, and then you get into the main character finally, and I like her a lot. I've not seen that actress in anything else, but she's great in this movie.
I've seen her before. I just once again, Betty Gilpin. She's been in other stuff. She was in Netflix's Glow. Um, she was in True Story. She was in A Dog's Journey, which no one should talk about because who cares? Um, she was also in the 2020 The Grudge.
Yeah,
Um, she's been in more TV than she has been in movies. Law and Order. She did an appearance on that. The Good Wife, Law and Order. She seems to get a lot of like one-off roles in a lot of these TV episodes.
which makes sense because for this movie because they cast a lot of TV people.
Yes, a lot actually. It surprised me of how many things like, oh, I don't remember where I've seen you from, but I know I've seen you.
But yeah, so I okay. I get that this movie is satire, but satire is supposed to be funny. And a lot of the satire in the second act, where it just boils down to these are the most stereotypical left wing and these are the most stereotypical right wing people, was not funny.
This is where I might have a diverging opinion. I thought it was hilarious. I actually was thoroughly entertained, and actually I thought this the ridiculous factor of it was actually freaking hilarious to me. Um, we also get the Sunny in Philadelphia actor there as well as like one of the main rich guys. Oh, you should. It's great. It's very funny.
But I
Um,
will say, I guess I shouldn't say it wasn't funny at all because the one thing I did appreciate about the middle act is you have the two extremes, right? but your main character is not on either side of the extreme. He just wants to survive. So I appreciated that, and I appreciated that it wasn't just one side is represented in the extreme. It's both sides are ridiculous. But there were some things where it was just like, oh God, did you have to throw that line in here or that line?
I think they really just want to illustrate because, admittedly, while some things were did make me feel a little bit uncomfortable, I still went through it and I realized these ideas do exist, and I know they exist because I've been personal targets of both things over the years. And granted, they exist on fringes, but they do exist. So I don't know exactly what the object. Perhaps the objective of the hunt was to drum up a bit of attention because they were going to go into these topics. The thing is, of course, these topics are there just to be there. They're not necessarily there to actually help reinforce whatever the movie's trying to say, which I think does get my goat a little bit, though. But I
Yeah,
can appreciate the protagonist because I really do like, and I love the character that Betty Gilpin is playing.
she's
And I
great.
like the fact that it's just one of the lines that I remember from her saying is that I don't really care why these people want to kill me. They want to kill me,
Yeah,
so I have to kill them. That's just how it is.
that's the other guy that I recognized because the one she told that to is I think it's to Gary, uh, who he's into like a lot of TV stuff one offs. Do you ever watch Boy Meets World back in the day?
I watched a few episodes, but yeah, I recognized him. I recognized Ethan Suplee as well. He's been in like American History X, Remember the Titans and whatnot.
Oh,
Um,
yeah.
like Amy Madigan, Hilary Swank is also. You, you can obviously recognize Hilary Swank,
Yeah.
especially considering you know her presence in the movie. Ike Barinholtz, I've also recognized from a bit of a lot of TV stuff as well. Um, yeah, it does not surprise me though that Damon Lindelof is one of the people who wrote this movie though, because this movie does not have great writing in it, but it has great actors. I would say to help elevate some of it.
Is he one of the writers?
Yeah, unfortunately,
That is unfortunate.
it's like directed
Um,
by Craig Zobel, who I know from nothing, but apparently he's done stuff. And there was a guy named Nick Cuse who wrote it along with Damon Lindelof.
and Lindelof had a producer credit. That's a shame. I will say, even if not all of its ideas stick, this is extremely watchable. It's just a like survival film.
Oh yeah.
Um, but yeah, this for anyone who's not aware, there was a lot of controversy about from the first trailer because it showed off the premise, right? People hunting people, and it was people did what people do, and they threw a hissy fit. Um, I think the idea that I latched onto the most was at the end when they reveal like why Hillary Swank and her people are doing this. I loved the idea that these people got targeted by cancel culture for something that they weren't even really doing. So they started doing what they got canceled for.
Which I think is probably the most hilarious thing of all,
It's
honestly.
amazing.
Yeah.
That's what this whole film should have been about, but we have to wait for the last 20 minutes to get there.
Yeah, it's these crazy people with like very low self-esteem that just we need this sort of reinforcement from the public because we have very poor character. We need the people to understand us. And it just shows how crazy they are.
Like,
And
that is the best satire in this entire movie. They got
yeah,
fired over a bunch of leaked text messages, so they decided to do what they were being accused of. It's amazing.
it's if we had done more of that, and there was like little hints at that every so often, but they if they had leaned into that harder, I think this movie would have been better.
I think it would have, because if this whole movie was that third act where she's in the house, it would have been amazing. and it would have been a like biting satire. But instead, they waste and this is goes back to what I said. As much as I like how they're handling some of the stuff in the second act, they're wasting that entire second act just making fun of the two political parties, but not actually saying anything about them.
I'll grant some of this if they want to really. I understand what they were trying to do, at least to a certain extent, because they do want to make fun of the political polarization between both things and showing that you don't like. There's no reason to like any of these sorts of people. Showing how that they're disgusting is good for the story, but sometimes they do it too much. It's like we get the point. Let's move on. Is what they should have done. At least we got a lot of At least we got a lot of like country girl, just shooting a lot of people and showing people just I don't care about the politics. Just practically speaking, let's just live our lives and try to be as responsible as we can be in the moment, not be busybodies in other people's beliefs.
Two things. One, of course, I agree with you. Um, fuck, I forgot the first one now.
I'm sorry.
Okay, so the first one was I want to know how they got Hilary Swank into this movie because she's like
Great question.
a big name actress in like real films. I want to know who she owed a favor to for this $14 million movie. Um, the second thing is, without looking, can you guess what film she made her debut in?
Hilary Swank?
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, I've seen her in a few things.
It's a minor role, but it is her film debut.
Uh I did see another movie called The Hunt, but I don't think that's the one you're talking about. Um I
Don't look.
can go in the wood. Okay. I'm drawing a blank, man. I'm sorry. I should know a bit more, but I don't.
Buffy the Vampire Slayer.
Really?
It all comes full circle.
Really? Have I seen her yet? We're in season 3 right now.
No, not the show. She's in the movie.
The movie.
But I just thought that was ironic. It keeps coming back to Buffy.
Yeah, it does. That's so weird.
Yeah, that movie has a crazy cast. Donald Sutherland, Rutger Hauer, David Arquette, Ben Affleck in an uncredited cameo. Dude, Seth Green played a vampire in the movie. That's really funny.
Anyway, we'll talk about
when we watch that. I'm gonna have to keep an eye on. But I wanted to bring that up because it was kind of relevant to the film, and then I got sidetracked.
That is interesting. I don't know how they got Hilary Swank into this. There are 2 production companies for this movie. We have Blumhouse Productions, obviously. We also have a company called White Rabbit Productions. So I would imagine that a lot of the budget for this movie was $14 million. So I imagine a lot of that probably went to the big name actress, Hilary Swank. They got profit off of it though. They got 16.2 million at the box office.
But
the
rule of thumb with those things is the whatever it took to make the movie double, right?
Yeah, there has to be in consideration for the marketing budget as well, plus like a lot of other costs as well. I think that Ready or Not did a lot better though, because they had a much smaller budget of $6 million, but got like 57.6 million bucks from their box office. So shows how well a low budget movie can do.
Yeah, I mean, shit. Look at and like I think the remake of Child's Play did amazing. But also, like The Hunt wasn't gonna do great. It came out like in the middle of the pandemic, and it was a rent at home thing.
And like the Twitter mob and whatnot decided to just have a hissy fit, and I imagine that didn't help out. Or maybe maybe it would have drummed up more attention to the movie, and I guess no press is bad press. So who knows if this movie.
Well, they played into it with the poster. If you're on the wiki page, look at the poster.
Oh, I know.
But to be fair to the film as well, I actually think its box office is pretty impressive considering it was only in theaters for a week before
That's true.
COVID hit.
It's a shame. I don't think this movie should have gotten as much controversy as it did. It's just a it's just a basic action movie.
Well, and like
Oh,
that's what I was saying. It was like Blumhouse does some good stuff, even if it's just kind of campy, like turn your brain off stuff. Uh, like they always at least put out an entertaining film, and if anything, this is entertaining.
there was big star talent in this movie. Um,
Hey, what's up, Noah?
on
How's it going, man?
hey, hey Noah, how are you doing? Um, but yeah, not a whole lot of music in this movie. Like every so often we get a few tracks, but it's one of the movies where we just want to let Silas kind of just ramp up the tension. We don't need a lot of big music to, enhance the action. So,
Yeah. Other than I think it's there's that like one scene where it starts playing that Mississippi song.
yeah, that was a little weird, but yeah, this movie was distributed by Universal. Go figure. Which, in some ways, I'm actually kind of surprised that Universal wanted a movie like this to come out, considering all the political charge that was kind of behind it. Um, but yeah,
I feel like Blumhouse at this point has enough pull with these kinds of movies that they could probably get this released. I could be
it
wrong. I don't know how the politics in Hollywood go, and I don't really care. Just to be brutally honest with you. Um,
it's a complicated mess of I don't know. That's a topic for a different time.
yeah. I'm going to be honest. I was a little nervous to do this film because this is obviously a very politically charged film, both within and without outside of the movie. Um, but I think we did a good job of maintaining a uh, neutral stance and just talking about what the film is saying. So I appreciate that because obviously I don't want an angry mob in the comments down below.
For any of the conservatives out there that might be offended at this movie, not all the conservative ideas here are shown to be wrong. There are certain people who do get things right within the context of this movie. So some of it is fair. And to any of the hard left, it's a girl power movie. That's what it is.
Well,
Um,
it's always good to see you, Noah. Glad you could pop in. We'll be doing these with Saturdays at 6 p.m. Going forward. New schedule. I'm exhausted by the time 11 comes around. I don't think I could form a coherent thought. Uh, but yeah, I mean, this movie does a good job at poking fun of both sides. It's not the best satire I've ever seen, but if the satire is serviceable, but it remembers that its first job is to entertain. And that's for me personally, a movie can have all the great ideas and themes and all that stuff in the world. If it's boring, I'm gonna give it a low score. I am there to be entertained first and foremost. That's me personally. If you feel otherwise, feel free to let us know. We're always happy to hear from other points of view, uh, except for people who like The Last Jedi. No, I'm kidding. I just opened a wormhole there. I'm sorry. Forgive me. Uh,
Another covers Haven of Star Wars, haven't that? Or
oh
Haven of
God.
Sci-Fi Fantasy. Um,
Yeah, I mean, there's not much else that I have to say about this. So I'm gonna ask Milton final thoughts.
well, I do have a final thought that might get into a bigger thing.
Okay.
So, have you read Animal Farm?
You're gonna quit when I say that I haven't.
Well, I thought I'd bring up the idea because the film brings it up. Yeah, the whole idea of Snowball kind of being a theme in this idea. So do you know what Animal Farm is about, more or less?
I know it's about sentient animals, but that and it's like a metaphor for like the governmental control or something like that.
It is. It's to basically give a general idea, George Orwell, which is a pseudonym for a person's real name that I can't remember right now. It's an analog for the rise of the USSR.
Hmm.
Snowball is one of the pigs who essentially tries to be a candidate for the leader of Animal Farm. He's basically a kind of a parallel to Trotsky, as opposed to his enemy Napoleon, who is an analog for Stalin. Snowball is shown to at least be a more or less reasonable thinker, but of course you have Napoleon who goes in and utilizes a lot of power dynamics to essentially force Snowball out. By which I mean he gets a lot of dogs to kill Snowball and prop up Snowball as like this boogeyman against the state. But there's the idea of Snowball's ideas kind of being hopefully being hope for Animal Farm that's trying to set itself apart from human society. The idea of these characters kind of calling each other Snowball within this movie, The Hunt, I think is interesting. I'm not sure if it works fully within the story because I don't think it's integrated properly. It seems like it's tacked on.
So I
As
could be
someone who
talk.
likes the book and likes literary references, I don't know how I feel about how it works in the movie.
So I could be talking out of my ass here because I haven't. Um, I I just want to tell everyone here that I'm a fraud. I haven't read any of Orwell. Um, I want to at some point, but the idea is supposed to be they give her Snowball because they think that she's the one that went on that website and commented like there's evidence and such. She's a hopeful thinker that they'll get arrested based on a joke. But it doesn't fit our protagonist because that's not who our protagonist is. I think that's supposed to be the idea.
But it
I
is
don't know if that
something she
works,
brings
but
up for Hilary Swank, the villain, to say you're more of a snowball than I am.
yeah.
Yeah, because Hilary Swank's character is crazy. She wants everything to fit her worldview, even the fact that there is evidence that supports the idea that she's wrong. She's willing to ignore it just to make herself right, or
Well,
in her
yeah. I
own mind.
mean, when their first interaction is her being like, "Is our main character Snowball for or what was it, Crystal?"
Lack of a better term, Crystal, I think is her name.
Being like,
Yeah.
"You got the wrong person." There's two of us in that town, and she's like, "No, I know that I got the right one. You are the one. You were the one who went on there and spelled it this way." And she doesn't believe her until, to circle back to your point, she realizes this woman is well educated, has read Animal Farm, and in her worldview, anybody who's read Animal Farm and is at least somewhat educated could not be the same person whose backstory she described, which is unfortunate. Unfortunately, that backstory that we are given for this unmet Crystal is very real and happens in America today.
I would say what this film, of course, tries to say is just because you're highly educated doesn't make you a good person. Or
Yeah.
if you're not educated at all, doesn't mean you're a bad person. It's like not everybody is the sum of what they're nurtured to be. Their people are should be judged by their actions.
Okay, so I'm gonna go back to the second act. I think it's the second act, or maybe it's the third act. But the scene where they're revealing like how they pick who's gonna be in this game,
Yeah,
that did make me laugh quite a bit. Because
it's
they
so
land on the black guy and they're like, we can't put
whoa.
him in there.
It's like, but yeah, we have to. I mean, we need racial diversity for victims, right? It's like
And
I
you
could
find
imagine
out that
that
they just picked Green Arrow because he hunts animals.
he hunts the rhino, as you can see
Yeah.
in that big game hunting thing.
I
It's definitely an identitarian thing that's going on with that whole picking thing. I could imagine that if something like that was to happen, that's probably how that conversation would go, unfortunately.
I just
Because
I just want to know what Emma Roberts did. Because
we don't know. She's just there, which I think is oddly hilarious in some ways because you have this big name actress or like somewhat big name actress, you focus on her and then you just freaking shoot her in the head.
Well, it's the screen thing, right? You
Yeah.
start off with her, and you make her you make the audience think she's the protagonist, and then you kill her.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought that up though, because I guess there was a little bit more to say, but I don't know it's hard with this movie to think like to narrow down, what to talk about and what's not worth talking about. Because there's stuff like the gas station that it's just a fun scene. Oh, okay. Since I brought up the gas station, that does have a great joke where he goes to drink the soda and she's like, "That's poison," and he spits it out. She's like,
You rate the soda too? How?
"It's like no, it's got so much sugar in it."
Oh, if I couldn't stand well, either one of those characters, but if I was married to someone like that, it's like, okay, just get off your high horse for a second here.
Yeah, just be like, "Oh, f off." You
Yeah.
made me think I was in danger.
No, she was a very judgmental character in that whole scene. Granted, so was he in his own way, but yeah.
Also, I did kind of find it was like I can't decide if it was cringy or funny, but the one guy that says he's from Florida and it's got like dressed in like a basketball jersey and like tattoos and
Well, I can't lie.
I know people
There's
who
a
look
lot of
like that.
yeah, and the whole Florida man thing has a precedent to it. So,
Yep.
I mean, we don't. I mean, of course, stereotypes do not define people just based on where they are, but it just so happens sometimes if you're in a
Well,
place, I don't know. It's
well,
this movie definitely plays with identitarian stuff all the time.
and this movie
It's
is clearly built is clearly a satirical film. And I find, at least in my experience, a lot of satire is built off of making fun of those stereotypes. I don't know if they're really making fun of him; he's just kind of there. But it doesn't
no,
surprise me when a stereotype shows up in a movie like this.
yeah. I think they're poking fun at. I think they're poking fun at a lot of these types. The war vet, as well as like another an archetype that's present in this movie. I think with at least two of these characters, where one is like a badass despite the fact that he's wounded, that the guy is shot in the arrow with a fence scene, and you also have the war vet who's has this veneer of being tough, but is really just a coward.
I'm glad you mentioned the war vet because I forgot about him. So the movie leaves it kind of ambiguously if he was working for them or not. Fuck off, Steve. I mean, I don't care. Sorry, guys, you're gonna see that in the video. But
PC
anyway,
problems, guys.
so what do you think? Was he working with?
I don't think he was. And I don't think that detracts against the main character because this guy clearly has issues, and all he had to do was cooperate. If he had done that and was, trusting of the person who has clearly put in a lot of work to keep both of them alive, he would not have had to die. Plus we didn't see him in that selection scene. So I think that's one of the reasons why I don't think that he was one of them, but granted, of course we didn't get everyone in that scene either where they did the selection process, so who knows? The film leaves it ambiguous, um, which I'm fine with. Um, because even Hilary Swank just wants to just pull in Crystal into her craziness.
Yeah,
To say what truth is what I deem it to be. And Crystal says, no, it's you're a crazy person. You can't fully trust what you believe right now.
yeah, and I mean, normally I hate when things leave it ambiguous like that. Like I'm the kind of guy that I like a clear, definitive answer. But with something like this, it's fine because then at least right into the fight scene, which, at least in my opinion, was wonderfully done. Um, Minus maybe like one or two scenes that I thought the main character had to be dumbed down a little bit for a gag, like when she swings off that thing and then falls. It felt like we just did that to give Hillary Swank a more fighting chance. But overall, I thought the final fight was really well done.
I like the final fight. it like has the brutality of you seen The Punisher on Netflix?
Oh yeah.
At least season one. Yeah, I love like some of the season one fights with the Punisher. It kind of like almost matches that sort of brutality for me. Um, Still doesn't quite compare to the Punisher, but I like this one too.
Well, anything else we should cover, or should we move for real this time into final thoughts?
Uh, they have a bunker, and that's cool. I also I also for some technical elements, I love the fact that this movie does understand it understands how guns work, which is great. You definitely get the whole like yoink, I take the magazine out of the gun. No more bullets. It's like no, there's going to be a bullet in the in the chamber right there. Just because you take it out doesn't mean all the bullets out of the gun are gone. And I can appreciate details like that. Just technical details that just really wrap the movie together. Um, you also get some, realistic effects like no one's going to be fully accurate with a bow all the time, which I can appreciate. Um, yeah, some of the technical elements that they get right, I can praise it for. I'd give this movie. It's like comparing apples and oranges. But I'm gonna give it a 4 out of 5.
Oh,
I know. I might change. I might change it later. This is a movie I would watch again. I would
um,
watch it with people.
yeah, for sure. I'm gonna give this a 3 out of 5. I think this is a very well done, entertaining film, but I think this movie's trying too hard to have a message, and I can't ignore it when it's trying that hard. And I think that message is mixed, is jumbled in second act, but finds itself in that final act. And if the whole movie was that final act, this would be a 4 out of 5 easy. I would watch this again, preferably with people, like maybe like in a Discord movie night or one night or something. Um,
Hey, we could
but
bring it up later. Do we want to watch this movie again tonight?
not tonight. But if you want to watch a couple episodes of Buffy, I am down.
I
Um,
guess.
but yeah, so normally we would spin the wheel here, but I've already picked out 2 movies for next week.
Ooh.
Yes, I and this was it was actually, if we'd been smart, we would have done it this weekend. But by the time I realized it, too many wheels were already in motion, and I didn't want to be like, "Hey, watch these instead," and hope that you saw the message. And I was like, "Fuck it, we'll just do it next week." So next week we are doing 2 Zack Snyder films: two,
Ah,
2004's Dawn of the Dead, and the movie that just came out yesterday, Army of the Dead. See why I said we would have done it this weekend?
yeah,
Uh,
I got
but
you.
I didn't do it. I didn't pay for it right. So yeah, I will post those on Instagram. But those are what we were doing. We will not be changing any plans. It'll probably be just me and Milton, because I don't think Austin wants to watch those, unfortunately. But we'll see. But anyway, yeah, probably there may be a gaming stream tomorrow, but it probably will be just me playing either Days Gone or something to that effect. I think Milton is busy tomorrow. I think you had told me that you were doing something tomorrow, but I don't remember. Um,
Something. We'll talk later.
yeah, yeah.
We'll see.
But just for quick announcement. So yeah, we will see you guys next week, Saturday, 6 p.m. For Dawn of the Dead and Army of the Dead. We appreciate you guys. Thank you so much, and we'll talk at you later.
Thank you for watching, everyone.